Welcome, everyone. We'll be getting started shortly. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Services for Independent Living's webinar. Our topic today is going to be Senior Nutrition 101, making sure your nutritional needs are met. Today's webinar has been brought to you by Services for Independent Living and Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging. My name is India Jones. I will be your webinar facilitator for the day. And I am also the Community Services Manager here at Services for Independent Living. We're just going to get into a few housekeeping rules. All participants will be muted during the webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the question box. We will attempt to answer them at the end of this presentation. A copy of today's presentation is available for download if you would like in the handout section. A recording will be available on our website at www.sil-oh.org in the archived webinar section. There will be a satisfaction survey that will pop up at the end of this webinar. Please fill it out. This is how we get feedback on how we're doing and ideas on what other topics you all would like to hear about. If you would like to receive 1 CEU credit for attendance, and this is only offered to licensed social workers, licensed independent social workers, and social work assistants, please select yes on that particular question on the survey. That will pop up directly at the end of this webinar. Today we have a really great speaker. Her name is Ann Stahlheber. She is the Nutrition Program Coordinator over at Western Reserve Area on Aging, and we're very fortunate to have her today to talk to us more about senior nutrition. So I want to turn everything over to Ann, and I apologize if I messed up your last name. Welcome, Ann.
That's perfectly all right. Had that name for a long time, and so I'm used to it. Yeah, it's Stahlheber, just in case you needed. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I had changed my camera. There we go.
Thank you for that correction.
Sorry.
Welcome.
Hello, there I am. So I'm excited to be here today. I love talking about nutrition. I'm a registered dietitian, so I've always been interested in food, and it's something that I do a lot of research for, and it's exciting to share people who are interested in it. And so I am excited to have a discussion. Hopefully, towards the end, we can talk about some things. So yes, okay. Today we're going to be talking about some of the unique needs for nutrition for older adults, and then also talk about the importance of nutrition for older adults, and then talk about some strategies for healthy eating. And I just also wanted to mention that this isn't really something that is going to be helpful for necessarily diagnosing or treating individual conditions. If you have some question about your own nutritional needs, it is best if you talk to your own healthcare provider. Okay, so first I wanted to start off with a little bit of good news. Today, this is a graphic that shows a breakdown of different age groups among our population. And there's a long-standing nutrition study that looks at the diets of people in our country, and they assess the health factors that of what the foods we're eating. And so they give a score to our diets. So 100 would be like the absolute best, healthiest diet, and 0 would be the absolute worst. And so the overall as a population, you can see we're not doing super well, but the 60 and up population group is actually doing the best. So we can see that people who are 60 and up generally have the healthiest diets of any age group in our population. So it is of interest for people who are 60 and up, and it's also really important for optimal health and preventing chronic diseases. So they're on the right track. Okay, so we're going to be talking about some nutritional needs that change throughout older adulthood, and things that could impact nutritional intake. So things such as medications. We know that many adults are taking one or more medications, and so nutrition and fluid intake can be impacted by that. Dental changes is another thing. As we get older, we may have dental problems that could impact the healthy eating choices that we make. Physical abilities or limitations also can impact our nutrition intake. Cognitive impairment is another one. Many people who have cognitive impairment also have nutrition impacts related to that. And in the older adult population, we see a risk for social isolation, which can kind of be a circular issue where nutrition impact can impact social isolation, and then vice versa. Social isolation can impact nutrition intake. And then social supports also. So people may not have as many social supports as they need to eat healthy. And again, same with economic constraints. So sometimes financial reasons impact the choices that we're making for food. So I'm going to get into a little bit of some of the nutrition differences or the nutrition needs for seniors. I'm not going to go through every nutrient, but I'm going to go through some of the major ones and some of the most important ones for seniors. So calories is one. So that's generally, our overall diet comprises of calories, and it's an energy, a way of checking energy in. So foods have calories. After the age of 50, our calorie needs actually go down by about 5% per decade. And that can, as you can see, where that could be problematic if people are used to eating the same amount of calories every day, and then gradually as you get older, you don't need as many calories. That can contribute to weight gain over time. So generally, calorie needs vary depending on the person. So depending on your age, your activity level, your gender, all of those things can go into your overall calorie needs. So it's a pretty wide range of 1,600 to 2,600 calories per day. But then the average is 2,000 calories per day. So most diets are based upon that 2,000 calories. And then we need to emphasize, if we have less calories to work with, that the foods that people are eating are more nutrient dense. So nutrient dense means more vitamins, minerals that we can include in food per calorie. So we compare nutrient dense food to like an empty calorie, where empty calories would be things that have calories, but they don't have a lot of nutrition in them. So they might have just like only calories, but not like vitamins and minerals. Balancing calorie intake with activity level is really helpful and can be more difficult since our calorie needs are decreased as we get older. So, oh, I apologize, just a second. My phone is ringing. So sorry. Sorry about that. So protein needs generally just stay the same for most adults and into older adulthood. However, there could be times when our protein needs increase due to surgeries, illnesses, injuries. So there are certain times when a person, an older adult specifically, would need more protein than what's listed here. So these are the general RDAs for protein, which would be 56 grams of protein per day for males and 46 grams per day for females. And just a couple little things about protein. Protein helps maintain your healthy cells. So it helps sustain your immune system. It helps prevent your muscles from wasting. It helps you fight infections, helps you heal from wounds. Proteins are broken down in your body and used for a lot of functions. So enzymes, hormones, and we need to make sure we're consuming protein on a daily basis in order to have enough of all of those great chemicals that help us function in our bodies. So the next nutrient would be fat. Fat needs generally decrease for older adults simply because we have less calories, less calorie needs overall. And we are, fat is generally consumed in higher quantities than needed. So as we get older, the fat needs actually go down. We do need to emphasize unsaturated fat for what we eat. So fat isn't all bad. Some people we're starting to get that message across. I think we went through like a low fat phase where like fat was the enemy, and fat really isn't the enemy. We do need fat in our diet. It's just that we tend to have too much of it. But I'll just tell you a little bit about what fat does for us. So we use it in our cell membranes. So each of our body cells is actually made up of, there's fat surrounding each body cell. The other thing that it does is it helps us absorb certain vitamins. So there are certain vitamins that actually travel via fat into our body and go to the places that it needs to go to do their job, which would be vitamin A, D, E, and K. And so if we don't have fat in our diet, we wouldn't be able to absorb those nutrients. It is important to have small amounts of fat in our diet, but we usually do eat too much of it. So too much fat in our diet can help promote risk factors for heart disease, cancer, overweight, and then being overweight can increase the risk for diabetes, high blood pressure. And so we really only need 20 to 35% of our calories from fat. And we really do want to emphasize the unsaturated fats. So the unsaturated fats would be mainly things coming from plants. So plant oils, and then also seafood. So like fish would have more unsaturated fats. And then the saturated fat content would be higher in things like animal fats, like dairy, cheese, butter, and then meats. So I'm going to move on now to carbohydrates. And so carbohydrates are, the need for older adults is generally the same. It's a percentage of our diet. About 50 to 60% of our diet should be made up of carbohydrates. Again, we have less calorie needs, so we're going to look for things that have higher nutrient density. And then we use this term, I don't know if it's maybe a dietitian-y phrase, but we use carbohydrates enough to spare our protein. So what that means is we have our carbohydrates in our diet so that we're not using protein for energy. So using protein for energy is not an efficient way of getting energy. So we want to make sure we have enough carbohydrates in our diet so that the protein can be used for the things it's supposed to do. So it's supposed to be, contribute to our muscles, our immune system, helping with all of our body functions. We save our carbohydrates for energy. We also use carbohydrates in our central nervous system, and then it fuels our brain. So we definitely need carbohydrates in our diet. And then just a couple little differences between different types of carbohydrates. So a nutrient-dense carbohydrate would be considered what's called a complex carbohydrate, which would be something that has more vitamins, minerals, fiber. So things like cereals, grains, legumes, certain vegetables, and protein and fruits. And then foods that just basically have carbohydrates but not much else would be things like sweets, sugar sweetened beverages. Those kind of things have carbohydrates, but they're really empty calories. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was fiber. Fiber isn't really a calorie. It's basically just a component of food. So fibers are like the fibers within plants, and they help with improving our overall health. And a lot of high fiber foods are really rich in vitamins and minerals. Dietary fiber is helpful for our digestive tract. So it helps with if people are dealing with constipation or diarrhea, diverticulitis. And then it also helps with reducing colon cancer. And then through the physical act of actually removing like cholesterol and fats from our food while it's going through our digestive tract, it can help reduce risk for diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So the nutrition needs for fiber are the same for older adults as younger adults. 30 grams per day for males and 21 grams per day for females. So water is really important. It's probably the most important thing. You can survive on without food for really a long time, but if you don't have water, you won't be able to survive very long. Overall, our fluid intake is needed for every body function. Older adults are at higher risk for dehydration, and there's a few reasons for that. Body water actually decreases with age. Just generally, like your skin is drier, everything has less water. And many medications can impact fluid loss. A lot of people are on medications that can actually contribute to water loss. And thirst is also not as effective to tell a person that they need to be drinking. And then there's other factors. So in older adults, some people are dealing with limited physical ability to like get up and down, go to the bathroom. And so seniors may self-limit their fluid intake. The other thing might be incontinence. Some people might be cautious about drinking liquids before going in public because they're concerned about possible incontinence issues. And this can cause other problems and also dehydration. So things could be, side effects of dehydration could be urinary tract infections, pneumonia, skin issues like breakdown or pressure ulcers, and then mental status, confusion, disorientation. So it's very important to have enough fluid. And the needs for older adults is about 1 milliliter of fluid per calorie of intake. So if we're going off of a 2,000 calorie diet, that means about 2,000 milliliters or 2 liters of fluid per day. And that would be, different if you had different calorie needs, but generally people don't consume enough water or liquids. So it can make a big difference in how you feel, you can be seen like pretty quickly if people start to focus on making sure they're drinking enough water. And so it doesn't have necessarily calories or nutrition, but it can make a big difference in your overall health. So the next thing is getting into a couple of the vitamins and minerals that are particularly important for older adults. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some vitamins and some minerals that actually the nutrition needs change for older adults, which would be vitamin A, D, and B12. And then some minerals, which would be calcium and iron. And then I'm also going to talk about some that aren't necessarily different in needs, but they're really important for seniors to make sure that they're getting enough. We can go to the next one. So vitamin A is actually stored more readily in the body as we get older. So our vitamin A needs actually decrease as we get older. And so the recommended daily amount of vitamin A actually goes down in people over the age of 51. And so the RDA is 900 micrograms per day for males and 700 for females. And you can find vitamin A in carrots, ready-to-eat cereals, and milk. Oops, excuse me. So the next one is vitamin D. Vitamin D needs actually increase for older adults. We need vitamin D to absorb calcium, and calcium is really important because it promotes bone density. So in younger, older adults, it's 51 to 70 years old, it's 600 IUs per day. And then for 71 and older, it's actually 800 IUs of vitamin D per day. And you can get vitamin D from the sun. So I know this is a dietitian talk, but you can actually get vitamin D from the sunshine. And but around here in Ohio, and also seniors overall tend to not get enough outside time. So it can be tough to get vitamin D from the sun around here. We can also get it from food. I've seen in some clients and also friends and family, as well as myself, vitamin D deficiency around in the winter months, because we basically have about 6 months where we're indoors more and we wouldn't be necessarily getting vitamin D from the sun. And so I do see a lot of people being prescribed vitamin D supplements in the winter months, but that would of course be up to the healthcare provider of the individual. And then there are the vitamin D food sources would be fortified cereals, milk, eggs, and then some seafoods like salmon, tuna, and catfish have good sources of vitamin D. B12 is an interesting vitamin. B12 is, the needs for vitamin B12 are not lower in seniors. However, our bodies, as we age, tend to lose a key protein in our stomachs that we need to break apart the B12 from the proteins in the food in order to absorb the B12. So it might be a little bit complicated, but there is a protein in our stomachs that we need to use to get the B12 into our body. And so if we have less of that protein, we're not absorbing the B12 from the food as much as we were when we were younger. So about 15% of older adults are actually B12 deficient. And it's our body, you know, we do lose our ability to digest foods the same as we get older. So 2.4 micrograms is the same as younger adults and older adults. However, Many older adults tend to need synthetic forms of B12 because they're not readily absorbing the B12 they get from food. The food sources of vitamin B12 are animal products, so meats, cheeses, eggs, shellfish, and dairy. So milk is a big one. And but again, a lot of people tend to need synthetic form, which would be found in like a multivitamin. Go on. Calcium. This is one that's a lot of people are aware of because many people, as we get older, are concerned about bone health. And yes, calcium is really important for bone density. And osteoporosis is a common condition that people can associate with calcium. It can lead to bone loss and fractures, which can be really painful and very debilitating for older adults. And calcium needs are therefore increased in seniors. So 51 and older, it's 1,200 milligrams for females, and then in younger males, it's 1,000 milligrams per day, ages 51 to 70, and then over 71, it's 1,200 for males as well. So 71 and up, it's 1,200 milligrams for everyone. And we can find calcium in milk. That seems to be kind of a generally aware. People are aware of that source. Yogurt, cheese, or other sources of calcium, and then also dark green leafy vegetables like broccoli, and also canned salmon has a good source of calcium. And I don't know if you, it's like a little dietitian, just a little known fact that in salmon, the canned salmon, the reason why it's a good source of calcium is because the way they process it, there's little bits of bone in there with the meat. So you're eating the a little bit of fish bones, which is a good calcium source. So people might not be really into eating that, but it can be really healthy for us and help contribute to our calcium intake. All right, so iron. Iron is important, but it is readily stored in our bodies, and as we get older, we tend to not need as much. So the needs for iron actually go down as we get older. Iron intake is important for women who, like before menopause, they readily shed, so they would need to replenish their blood. We use iron to help make blood, and so after menopause, that need goes down. And so over 51 years of age, our iron needs are 8 micrograms per day. And we can typically get that from food sources, which would be like ready to eat cereals. They tend to be iron fortified, and then breads and also meats. Okay, so vitamin E is also an important nutrient for older adults. We don't need more necessarily as we get older. It's just important that we have enough, and most older adults don't consume enough. So I just want to emphasize vitamin E can help with preventing cataracts and heart disease. And so we just want to make sure we're getting enough vitamin E as we get older. And some of the sources of vitamin E are oils like sunflower, safflower oil, eggs. So like mayonnaise is actually a good source of vitamin E. Wheat products like wheat germ and whole wheat products, leafy green vegetables, tomatoes, nuts, and seeds also have good sources of vitamin E. Folate is a ingredient and to not helpful in preventing disease. The recommended daily amount for folate is 100 micrograms. Folate in ready-to-eat cereals, yeast bread, and grapefruit juice. I'm getting a message that says I have a slow connection, so I hope you can still hear me. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, it just, something happened, just a second. Okay, it closed my window for a second there. I thought I disconnected. Sorry about that. Okay, so, okay, we're on to magnesium. Magnesium is another one that the needs don't necessarily change for older adults as younger adults, but it is really important to get enough, and many older adults don't consume enough magnesium. So magnesium is really helpful for bone and teeth strength, to maintain bone and teeth. It also is needed in nerve function and metabolism of all of our foods. So it helps in the processes of metabolizing the foods that we eat. We can get magnesium in milk, bread, coffee, actually, and ready-to-eat cereal and beef. So next would be zinc. Zinc is, again, really important that we get enough. The needs aren't necessarily different for younger adults and older adults, but many older adults don't get enough zinc. Zinc is used for in our bodies for wound healing. It helps with maintaining our skin integrity, and we can get, if people have deficiencies in zinc, they can get taste issues, like taste changes, which can decrease nutrition intake. And then also it impairs the immune system and causes an increased risk for dermatitis. And we can find zinc in meats, ready-to-eat cereals, and also milk and poultry. So just a little bit about the importance of optimal nutrition. You know, in general, when we're eating well, we feel well. This can improve our overall, like, just sense of well-being, our quality of life, helps keep us active, helps keep us, you know, doing the things that we love to do, which generally contributes to, you know, our well-being, our quality of life. Those things also contribute to improved mental health, and you know, feeling well makes us, you know, maybe feel more grounded, less stressed, which can improve our overall mental health. Our immune system, it benefits from having optimal nutrition. It can help us manage chronic conditions that we have. It can help us maintain our independence when we are having our healthy eating. It also helps improve our physical appearance, which can then improve our, you know, sense of well-being and our mental health. When we're physically a healthy weight, and even you know, just feeling healthy at any size. Because I do believe that, you know, people can be healthy even if they're overweight, but if you're eating healthy, even if you're overweight, you can still have an improved physical appearance. Your skin feels, it's more, your complexion is clear, and you're brighter, and you're just more confident that you're eating well and you're feeling well. And optimal nutrition is also helps with reducing the aging process. So it actually slows down the aging process. And it also helps reduce the risk for developing chronic conditions. So heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, and osteoporosis, and cancer. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some ways to improve our health. So through healthy eating, focusing on older adults. So some of the strategies, these are what would be considered the dietary pattern for all Americans, but then tailored to seniors. So we look at, when we're making a healthy dietary pattern, we look at social factors, personal preference, obviously, which you're going to eat what you like, cultural traditions, so foods that you generally have based upon your culture, and then of course budget. We need to be able to maintain being able to afford the healthy foods. So all of these things can be taken into consideration when creating a meal pattern for yourself or for an individual if you're assisting other individuals. So in general, these are the things that would be included in a healthy meal pattern. Vegetables, focusing on the variety of colors. So, you know, the rainbow of vegetables would be something to be a good goal. Dark green, red, orange, including a large variety, beans, peas, lentils, and then some of the starchy vegetables. And, you know, there really isn't a bad vegetable or vegetable that you should avoid. Any vegetable would be part of a healthy diet. People tend to not overeat on vegetables, so you know, that's one like small thing that I tell people, if they want to start eating healthier, just try to, like, rather than like limiting something, eating more vegetables, just start with that, and you're gonna you know, already be improving your overall nutrition intake. Fruit, same thing, a rainbow of fruit, all the different colors, and emphasizing whole fruit rather than like fruit juice. And then grains. So the grain foods would be like the cereals, rices, pasta. Those we want to look at whole grain. So the brown, like, you know, whole grain bread, brown rice, whole grain cereals. Those, at least half of our grains should be coming from whole grains. And so dairy products, we want to aim for lower fat dairy products or fat-free. So milk, yogurt, cheese. And then because some people, especially as we get older, become lactose intolerant. So looking at like some lactose-free versions of, you know, milk, dairy, and other dairy products. And then, and some people are tending to avoid dairy products altogether. So looking at some of those plant-based fortified alternatives to dairy. And for protein foods, looking at lean meats, protein, poultry, eggs, seafood, beans. Then there's like the, you know, vegetarian options, which would be like peas, lentils, nuts, seeds, and then also soy protein sources. For oils, looking at more plant-based oils, so like nut, olive, and then some of the fish, like fish oils as well. So next would be things that we want to try to limit in our diet. Limit, not eliminate, but added sugars. So added sugars, we want to try to keep to less than 10% of our total calories. And then saturated fats. We talked a little bit about what saturated fats are. We want to try to keep those less than 10% of our calories. Sodium, also, we want to try to avoid too much sodium in our diets. And the general maximum would be 2,500 milligrams per day. And again, some older adults are actually recommended to follow a lower sodium diet than 2,500, and that would be up to their healthcare provider to tell them if they need less sodium than that. And then also alcoholic beverages. Alcoholic beverages are basically empty calories. So 2 drinks per day for men and 1 for women. And even that every day would be a lot of extra calories. So really that would be not on every day to look for those limits. So how that would look, healthy meal pattern, breaks out into like servings of food per day. So this is probably an easier way of looking at how to set up your meal pattern. So about 2.5 cups of vegetables per day when thinking about what I talked about before, like the variety, the rainbow, and then 1.5 cups of fruit per day, 6 ounces of grains per day. And again, looking at the whole grains for half of those, the 3 cups of dairy, 5.5 ounces of protein, and then about 27 grams of oils. And then there's the extra calories, which would be where the extra fats, sweets, or alcohol would come in. And so this is a visual that the USDA put out for how to kind of think about your diet, setting up your meals. I'm hoping that this looks familiar. This is what the USDA replaced the food pyramid with. So this, the food pyramid is out and the plate is in. And so the main thing to think about when you're looking at the plate is look at how small the purple piece of the plate is. The purple piece is the protein. And many people in the American, eating style are eating more protein than that small piece of their plate. So looking at, we really do probably need to shrink down the amount of protein on our plate and then add the fruits, the vegetables, and the grains to make up more than 75% of our plate should be basically non-animal products, so non-meat foods or non-protein foods. So plants make up most, and then the protein or the animal products make up less than 25% of that plate. And then the dairy products also are there to be represented pretty much in every meal. So like if we're eating 3 meals a day, 3 cups of milk a day would be as much milk as we would need for the whole day. So that's kind of helpful visual representation of kind of how we could set up our meals. So just some tips. These are things that I like to share with people just to be successful when you're trying to eat healthier. One thing, a lot of people will come up to me and be like, oh, you're a dietitian. And first they'll tattle on themselves and they'll tell me all the bad foods that they like to eat. And then they'll ask me for a plan. They'll be like, you need to help me, get me something, set me up. And I always, like I say, I eat unhealthy foods too. We're all, we're eating a variety of foods. We don't have to be, eating healthy 100% of the time. And then it doesn't help me necessarily to create a plan for someone else. I mean, I'm happy to do that. I do meal plans, but it's really, I might not necessarily have a good sense of all of your constraints and all of your preferences. So it's really best if you can create your own. What, we just shared, variety, healthy foods, fruits and veggies, whole grains. And now I challenge you to be able to create your own meal plan that includes those healthy foods. So we have the number one thing is to plan your meals. So a planned meal is 99% of the time healthier than an unplanned meal. You think about if you're going through your day and you haven't even thought about dinner and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to get, but I'm starving. I might just go through the drive-through, or I might just grab the quickest thing that's right here because I don't want to spend a lot of time preparing a meal because I'm really hungry. Or you may not have time to go out to the store, so you're just going to grab something real quick. So if you take the time to plan out a meal, write it, post it, maybe write it in your calendar, put it on your refrigerator, or maybe make a special notebook for your menu. It'll set you up for success for eating healthier. So some tips on how to create your menu would be to, first of all, like use your, where you keep your food. go there when you're planning your meal. You want to look at what you have on hand. So is there anything in your refrigerator, your freezer that you need to, I think you skipped ahead. I'm still on the plant, thank you. That you need to use up. Is there something that you want to make sure you use before it goes bad? Put those things on your menu. And then look at your sale ad for your grocery store that you shop at, and look and see if there's anything on sale. And if there's things that are on sale that you like, you can add those to your menu. And then when you're grocery shopping, just a little tip is to incorporate things that are on the perimeter of the store for the majority. And the things on the perimeter of the store tend to be the nutrient dense fresh items, so like fresh produce, fresh meats, lean meats, and then the dairy section, and also the bakery. So you can find like the good whole grain breads in that bakery area, and tend to get less of your groceries from those middle aisles, which tend to have the more processed items like boxed and canned items. Not to say that those don't fit in a healthy diet. They definitely do. I said ready to eat cereals about 5 times when we're talking about key nutrients. So we definitely, include those foods in our diet. But, if we shop the majority of the perimeter, we're going to make sure we're getting a lot of those fresh, healthy foods into our diet. Shopping in season for the fresh produce can help save money and also get, real great tasting fruits and vegetables. You can get those at the grocery store, or you can get them at the farmer's market, or through local produce distributions. And then it's just a note is that a planned meal helps limit those splurges, because you can plan ahead for like a celebration or a favorite item, something like your favorite foods on sale at the grocery store. Well, you plan to have that, then that avoids the splurge, because then if you're eating a lot of unplanned meals, we're going to splurge more often. Okay, we can go to the next one. So in preparation, it's helpful to kind of prep for multiple meals at a time. Maybe on the weekend, doing a lot of the washing of the produce, cutting, chopping of the vegetables if we can. If it's with a senior, we might be helping that person, set up their, food prep for the week. And then choosing healthy cooking methods. So looking at less of the frying and cooking in heavy oil or like saturated oils, and the steaming, sauteing, going more towards those, baking. Those are the healthier cooking methods that we want to include. Serving on smaller plates. It seems silly and it seems kind of basic, but it actually does work. It helps us serve ourselves a smaller portion, and then we would be eating a smaller portion. And then freezing the extra for later on helps with reducing food waste. And also it increases variety. If we can, save those things for later, then we're not eating, we're not overeating, and we're also being able to plan for a healthy meal for later on when we might be having less time. So a couple of tricks to avoiding overeating. Avoid eating when watching TV. This is a big one. The mindless eating, we tend to eat more than we need. Mindful eating is the opposite of mindless eating. So trying to really enjoy, sit down, slow down, and try to take small, slow bites and really savor each bite of the food. And we tend to enjoy our food more, and also avoid overeating. When we stop when we're full, when we're eating mindfully, saving the rest for a different, for leftovers for a different meal. One other trick to avoid overeating is to eat around the plate. So if you think about that My Plate model, and you've got the different sections, you've got like the meat and the starch and the vegetables. Some people will eat like the meat first and then go to the starch, and then save the vegetables for last. And if you're full already, by the time you get to the next category, then you're not going to eat all of the categories. That's one issue. The other issue is that you might not eat the vegetable. So I encourage people to take a bite of each thing and keep going around the plate. And that helps with both avoiding overeating and then also making sure you're getting a variety of foods in your meal. Keeping a food log is another one. Keeping a food log is the #1 best way to keep someone on track. When you're trying to eat healthier, if you keep track of what you're eating, you're much more aware of what you're putting in your body, and then you can monitor yourself. You keep yourself in check. And if you notice that you're overeating at certain times, or if you're having like splurges or problems following a healthy diet at certain times of day, or certain week, you can kind of notice those trends in yourself and then work on making changes to eat healthier. So the next thing is some community resources to eating healthier. So older adults could be eligible for a congregate or home delivered meal program in their community, which is in our area, it's run through the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, so that's where I work. And so you could call the hotline and see if you could get referred to a congregate or home delivered meal program. The meals served for these programs are 1/3 of the RDA. So they include a wide variety throughout the week. They're different. Every day is different, and they include fruits, veggies, whole grains, lean proteins, and milk every day. And so they're a great source of healthy meal for seniors. There is some eligibility requirements, so you'd have to call and find out. Another great source would be the produce distributions. So either going yourself or having someone help you get produce from produce distribution. The food bank runs produce distributions all over our area, and it's free produce to people who participate. And then another produce source would be the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. That's also run through the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, where eligible seniors are given $50 coupons to spend at participating farms, farmers markets, and mobile markets throughout our area. And another source would be community meals in the community. Generally, community meals are run through like community service organizations, family organizations, and churches. And many are making efforts to improve the nutrition quality of those meals. And then the food pantries as well, same thing. Food pantries also are trying to emphasize healthy food. A lot of them are offering fresh produce as well now. So, and fresh meats and cereals and eggs. So those would be a great resource as well to incorporate. The 2 phone numbers that I have there would be the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging hotline has resource care counselors that can help seniors identify resources in their area. And we do have resources that we don't necessarily provide ourselves, but we could refer to community resources like community meals and food pantries, and also the food bank. The reason the food bank offers the produce distributions, they also do benefits assistance for like food stamps. So if a senior is limited income, they may qualify for food stamps, and the food bank can help with taking the information over the phone with the senior and helping get them enrolled in the food stamp program if they're not. And they also would have information about where produce distributions and food pantries would be located in their community. So I may not have time to go through all of these. I'm noticing that it's about 7 to 12, but I just wanted to show a couple of things when we're trying to reduce sodium, fat, and sugar in our diets, like some ways to do that. So you could refer back to the PowerPoint presentation to look at these lists. It's just interesting to see some of the common food sources of these items in our diets. So this is just a breakdown of some of the top sodium sources in our diet. It might be surprising to see that bread is number one. A lot of people think of like salty snacks or soups or like, you know, like breakfast meats like bacon or something as big salt contain. Those have a lot of salt. They do have a lot of salt, but we eat a lot more bread in our daily diets than those other foods, and there's a lot of sodium in bread, and it adds up. And so that is our number one consumed sodium food. And then there's a few more listed down below. Keep it moving though, because I don't want to run out of time. So these are some tips on how to reduce sodium, looking at smaller portions of known high sodium foods, looking at the food label, and then there are lower or reduced sodium items available for like breads, deli meats, cheese, snack foods, condiments, tomato sauce. So looking for those can help reduce sodium intake in your diet. And then we'll go to sugar. Sugar is another one that sneaks in to some foods. One of the most obvious ones, though, is like soda. So sweet drinks like sports drinks, fruit drinks, and soda are that's the highest sugar food that we consume. And then it goes into the, other ones that would be like sweets, candy. Added sugar in coffee is the big one. That's also a big one for seniors, which can really contribute to a lot of sugar throughout the day for having a lot of coffee. Coffee in and of itself doesn't have sugar in it. But it's number 3 because as a country we're drinking a lot of sweetened coffee and tea. And then another one that isn't as much of an issue for seniors would be like the sugar added dairy products, which like be the yogurts and the milks. Like the chocolate milk is a big one for children. We can talk about some ways to reduce sugar in the diet in the next slide, which would be, again, like choosing smaller portions of the sweetened foods. If you're going to have a soda, have a small soda, like they do have like 8-ounce cans. That's, much smaller than those bottles. They have these like 20-ounce bottles now. You can see them all over. And really those have a lot of added sugar in there. Choosing sugar alternatives. And then just be cognizant of like low sugar and what that means on a label, especially for people with diabetes. Sometimes people think low sugar means like, oh, I can have, a lot of that food or a bigger serving size. And that's not necessarily the case because it tends to have the same amount of sugar once it's broken down as a regular sugar food. So the next, the next thing would be fat. So saturated fat is another thing that we really try to reduce in our diet. And so the top saturated fat foods would be cheese, and then meats, added fats like butter, and then fryer oil, and then milk, and then high fat meats. So hot dogs, bacon, sausage, those kind of things. And so I just wanted to show, before I get to that, the leaner meats helps. Trying meatless meals can really help with reducing saturated fat. Looking for alternatives. So like instead of like pork and beef products, try a turkey or a chicken, bacon or sausage, or even a meatless. So like a soy, like a vegetarian sausage can really reduce the amount of saturated fat. And then I said, read a food label like multiple times. So I just wanted to go over quickly some of the key parts of a food label. Number 1 would be look at the serving size. So on the container, if you're going to eat the whole container, look at the food label because that actually might be more than 1 serving. So looking at the calorie content per serving. I don't know what food this is for, but there's 8 servings. So if we had all of the container, it would be a lot of servings. We see now the calorie content in big bold letters or numbers. And that's to emphasize we should be paying attention to that. The calorie diet that this is modeled after is the 2,000 calorie diet. So the daily value for the percentages down below for some of the nutrients is based upon a 2,000 calorie diet. So a rule of thumb is if it's 5% or lower, then it's a low source of that nutrient. And if it's 20% or more, it's a high source of that nutrient. So a little bit about the sodium. People always are baffled by, how to tell if a food is low sodium or high sodium when looking at the food label. One thing I like to tell people is if the calories are higher than the milligrams of sodium, it's generally going to be an okay food. Lower sodium milligrams than calories. If the milligrams is higher, then that's going to be a higher sodium food. So we want to be careful with having too many of those in our diet because that can really contribute to extra sodium in our diets. And the same thing with sugar. We want to look out for those added sugars. So this food has 20% of our daily value of added sugar. So this would be considered a higher sugar food. Okay, so the next one. This is just a couple of resources that would be helpful for meal planning. You can calculate your calorie needs on the MyPlate website. There's even an app that you can use. So these could be really helpful with figuring out some recipes, how to incorporate some healthy meals into your diet. And also the bottom two are specifically geared towards seniors. So finding resources and nutrition guides for healthy eating for seniors. And this is my contact information. I apologize for rushing through a few of the later slides, but feel free to ask questions and we can talk about any of the parts of the presentation. It was really fun to present with you today, and I hope that it was worth your time.
Thank you so much, Anne. Of course, that was worth our time. I learned so much just now myself, and eating well is very important for good nutrition for really any age, but it's even more necessary for our older adults because nutritional needs do change. I'm looking over here in the question section, and I don't see any questions yet. So if you guys want to contact Anne on your own, here's her contact information, her phone number, as well as her email address. If you would like 1 CEU credit for attending today, please make sure you click yes on that particular question on the survey that will pop up right after we end the webinar. So I just want to thank you again, Anne, and I'm going to also share the resource page that you provided with a lot of our consumers who frequently have questions about, food sources and how to manage their daily diet. So thank you so much for that. And I hope to work with you in the future. And I want to thank everyone for attending today. And everybody have a great, safe Wednesday.